Hey everyone, Dan Carson here on the B.Y.O.B show for Build Your Own Business. I'm excited to bring on one of our great partners of our team, Ms. Campbell Strimple. She is with Smith Allen Insurance. She's a great networker, great person to lots of industry knowledge when it comes to the insurance side of the business. Dallas is a famous market for insurance claims. Homeowners insurance is often an overlooked part of the process. A lot of times people don't have that figured out ahead of time. They're once they get under contract, they're kind of rushing, getting quotes from a lot of other people. And so it's important to have some strategic partners in that space. So Amanda is a great partner of ours. She works with a number of the loan officers on our team, and I'm excited to have her on the show as a guest today.
Woohoo! I'm excited to be part of it, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah. So how long have you been in the insurance business?
Yeah, so August is my 5 years, actually. So
Okay.
flew
So
by.
yeah. And 5 years, I feel like, is almost a lifetime these days.
Truly. And especially with this industry and how fast it goes, it's a lot and it's constantly changing. So
Yeah. Well, you came into the business in kind of a unique time because it was already, we were in a kind of more of a buyer's market. It was pretty competitive. And then, you get COVID happens, right as you're probably getting your stride and everything. And that probably changed a lot for you.
right, exactly. Yeah. And so with like the networking side of the business, that changed a lot. And then even with the claim side of my business, that changed a lot during COVID as well. It was interesting, very interesting.
So was there ever any like COVID related claims, or like how did COVID impact the insurance business?
COVID impacted us a lot, like more on our auto side for auto insurance, whereas people weren't traveling as much, or if they were laid off and couldn't pay their insurance payments, we had to jump through a lot of hurdles on that end and kind of accommodate our clients to ensure that they still had insurance coverage but weren't able to make their payments. So a lot of carriers had different programs come out through that. So that was an interesting hurdle to go through.
Yeah, I think a lot of people had to change the way that they did business in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different ways. And now that we're kind of getting back to, I'd say, somewhat normal in terms of how we operate, going to events and everything again, I'm sure that's probably a welcome change
Oh,
for
it's
you as
great.
well.
I love seeing people in person.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's a lot easier to connect. Even so, we've done so much of this, like Zoom calls and video conferencing. There's nothing like getting together and seeing people face to face. I mean,
Right.
and we'll come back to that because that's one area where I think you're great. You're an awesome networker, and I think sharing some of your best practices with people would be awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so from a customer standpoint, like tell me about your agency, kind of the way that you guys process your clients, some of the special things about your firm.
Yeah, so we're a family-owned brokerage or Smith Allen Insurance. My boss is the third generation of his family to own this agency. So it's very small. There's 10 of us that work there. Pretty laid back. It's very much a family feel. And that's kind of how we like to approach our clients and helping them. So we treat them just as the way I was trained was like treat them how if you were in the buyer's position, how you want to be walked through. And me being young and newer to the industry, I didn't know a thing about insurance. So I try to put that perspective into whenever I'm helping my clients. Same with my other agents in the office and just walking through the coverages because insurance isn't the exciting part of buying a home. It's the thing you have to have and you hope you never have to use. So therefore, it's not even as fun to pay for. So just try to make sure that they understand what's included, why it's included, because oftentimes the insurance part is the overlooked part, like what you were saying.
Yeah.
And it's important, especially whenever you do need to use it. Like we see so many different claims up in North Texas just from the weather aspect, but then like last year with the freeze aspect, it's a whole bunch of claims that people never thought that they'd have to see in Texas. So now trying to cater their policies to cover those types of situations, it adds more money, but it saves you a lot of money if that ever
Mhm.
happens again. So just try to be as advising as possible and what is that word that I'm trying to say? Explaining as much as possible.
Explanatory. Yeah.
Explanatory, yes, thank you. It's Monday.
It is Monday. And so there is a lot of things from the insurance process. Like you don't think about, wind, you don't think about the underground plumbing. And
Mm-hmm.
so, most of the time people think of insurance for fire, structural damages. And then,
Right.
the main things that we see in Texas are probably the plumbing and wind damage, correct? Like,
Mm-hmm. And the
like
hills.
and like inhale. So the main things that we're seeing are pretty expensive items from an insurance claim perspective. You got roofs and you've got plumbing, and with plumbing, especially if it's slab, there's a lot that goes into that. How
Mm-hmm.
does so like during the claim process, like from y'all's perspective, are you actively involved personally? Do y'all have claim specialists in house, or what kind of service do people get within that?
No, so that is the one part that I can't typically be hands-on with the help with. So claims have to go directly through our carrier, but
Mhm.
I advise my clients to give me a call first before filing that claim directly, because oftentimes either there's not coverage for it, it doesn't fall under insurance, or the amount that it would cost to make that repair is less than what their deductible is, or it's just barely over that deductible. So it makes more sense to pay for it out of pocket. Um, so I try to advise them to call me first, just so we can talk through it, walk through it, and then from there, I'll provide them the resources with their carrier and how to handle that claims process. But mostly that's straight through the carrier
Straight through the
itself.
carrier. Yeah.
Hmm.
But you're kind of acting as a mediator advisor up front to kind of give them advice on how to
Exactly.
look at the
Yeah.
claimant. Okay.
And then if they need help as the claims open, getting the process moved along, we have our connections through the carriers that we can help reach
That's
out.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's important to feel like they've got somebody to handhold them along the way. Because
Hmm.
especially with the number of first time home buyers that we have in North Texas right now, like the first time that they have to make an insurance claim, having somebody that can kind of
Yes.
walk them through it and spend time with them within that, I
Yep.
think is going to be pivotal. And
Yeah.
it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when in Texas.
Exactly.
So there's always going to be the next storm. There's going to be a tree that falls. Something's always going to happen.
There's going to be water that leaks. There's going to
Mhm.
be something. You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So, but like you said, it's not one of the attractors of the home buying process, but it is one of the protectors, and,
Mhm.
one thing I think that happens a lot and that we see is, if we're competing against another lender, we may see an insurance quote where somebody may not have appropriate coverage. Like, so
Mhm.
when you're quoting one of your clients, do you spend time with them up front? Like, tell me about how the quote process works, and like if somebody's comparing two, do you make comparison? Kind of like we do. If somebody's showing rates one way or the other, we're going to talk
Right.
about the difference in cost and everything. Like, can you tell me what your process is there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, I'm an insurance broker, so I represent multiple different carriers in my own agency. So I'll shop them with about 12 different carriers myself, and then present them with the best couple of options that fits for them in their new home. And then other people often go for the big names like State Farm, Farmers, USAA. They will look at those, and I'm like, that's fine. I know it's a lot of numbers and they label things differently. So it's like, if you want to send it over, I'm happy to advise you and walk you through the differences in these coverages, why they're different, what's different, what mine has, what yours doesn't have, kind of that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Just make sure to answer any other questions that they have there, and just kind of explain each line by line what it is, why it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the things that you think are like overlooked in the insurance process that people don't pay enough attention to?
Oh, huge thing. So everybody's looking at the lowest price.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I understand we all want to pay the least amount of money, but you get what you pay for in those senses. And so I'm like, there's more to the premium amount itself. And
Mhm.
a huge thing that I see in North Texas is carriers will do a 2% deductible, wind hail deductible. And as
Mhm.
you mentioned, wind and hail are the biggest claims that we have in North Texas. And so I advise them, I'm like, if your home is $500,000, that's a $10,000 deductible if you have 2%. And so basically at that point, you're paying for a new roof yourself.
Yeah.
So why have insurance?
Mhm.
And so I advise them on that. And then they often overlook, carriers will do for your roof coverage, there's replacement cost, and then there's actual cash value. Your replacement cost is insurance is going to pay completely what that roof costs to replace, whereas actual cash value is a depreciated schedule. So if you have a 10-year-old roof, you're getting from insurance what a 10-year-old roof costs, and not. So then you're paying your deductible, and then the difference.
And then the difference, yeah,
yeah,
which can add up. So
yeah, those two things make the insurance premium less. And so yes, you're saving a couple $100s on the premium, but anything happens and you're paying thousands more.
is there any data in terms of like the average life of insurance before somebody like has some kind of claim on wind or hail in North Texas?
That's interesting. I should see if there is a report out there somewhere, because that would be interesting to see.
Yeah, I would love it, because if you can, like, maybe that 1% does make sense if it falls within a certain time, or 1% or 2% deductible makes sense if it falls within a certain timeline. But that's something that you think, like, people don't really think about. Like, all right, what are my odds here?
It's like a gambling.
Yeah,
let's take this gamble.
There's a lot of gamblers in North Texas, so I mean, right up the road. So,
right.
But I don't know. I just I think that the data is always interesting when it comes to those kinds of things. So
yeah, and I guess just kind of built-in data with our carriers. So the majority of them will do replacement cost up to a 15-year-old roof, and then past that, they automatically switch it to actual cash value.
Okay.
But very rarely, I feel like, do we see a roof that's 15 years or greater up here, because they don't last. Unless it's a metal roof or a tile roof.
Yeah, metal tile, like in one of the like stronger materials. Like your average roof, shingle roof. It's not, they call them 30-year roofs, but they don't ever. I don't know many of them that make it 30 years, especially.
If they do, they need to do some research on that and see why.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, maybe it's just the location, maybe it's luck, So
right.
But so you mentioned winter storms earlier. Like, I would imagine that there was a lot of people that thought they would have some kind of coverage for that damage that didn't. Was there any information that came out in terms of the number of people that didn't have the correct coverage, or what type of coverage is appropriate for that kind of thing? Because it seems like they're happening more and more often, where we get that really harsh freeze, like in in January, February every year. What's that? What's the kind of coverage that people actually need to have insurance on one of those winter storms?
Yeah. So if you have an all perils policy, your policy automatically covers for water damage. So that's pipe burst and it destroyed your floors and cabinets and walls. Insurance will cover that. But past that, with endorsements that I've been adding to everything now since the freeze, is the foundation coverage. And so that's not like if your foundation shifts, it's if you had a pipe underneath your foundation burst, they had to crack open that foundation, put it back to what it was, and repair that. So that also covers the water damage with that. That coverage is not automatically included in policies. It's always an endorsement. So I advise my clients to have that coverage, and I use the freeze as an example for that. Additionally, there's like a water seepage and leakage coverage endorsement you can use, and that covers like I mentioned, you have water damage included in your policy automatically, but that's sudden and accidental. So sudden burst, this water seepage, that's if you had a slow leak, say underneath your kitchen cabinet. You don't get down there very often because you don't clean as much as you should to get those cleaning products.
Or like a fridge line bust or something like that. Like
right. Yeah.
Ice maker goes out. Yeah.
Yep. And it takes a little bit longer for you to see that damage. This endorsement will cover you for that extended water damage. That's not the sudden and accidental. So I advise my clients to use that as well. Those are the two main things that I've seen since the freeze that I want my clients to have always.
Okay. And last insurance question, then we'll move on to marketing and networking. So like everybody hears about umbrella policies. Why don't you give a quick blurb on like when it makes sense for somebody to have an umbrella policy?
Yeah, honestly, everybody should use an umbrella policy. I have an umbrella policy for me and my husband, and it's just the two of us, and we have 2 cars. But especially families with young drivers, especially families with higher assets, bigger homes, more expensive things. So an umbrella policy covers you for extended liability. Your home policy has liability coverage. Your auto policy is completely liability coverage. And this umbrella policy covers you for extended liability. So if you were ever in an accident and you caused the accident, you caused bodily injury to somebody else, and there's a whole bunch of bills, this comes back on you. So it'll max out your liability limits on your auto policy. And then if you don't have enough there, then they start coming after you for your assets, for other things to help pay for those expenses. So if you have this umbrella policy, most common we see is $1 million umbrella policy. So this kicks in the event that your liability limits are maxed out on your home or auto policy.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, and that can go from anything. So kids swimming at your house, breaks an ankle
pools, yes,
in pool or something, you know, like, so anytime that it's when your insurance maxes out, it gives you additional coverage on pretty much any of your policies that are in. Okay. Right. That's good. Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think a lot of people don't even know or understand when to do it. But it sounds like everybody should have one.
Everybody should. And it's about $300 for $1 million of coverage.
Yeah. So the risk versus reward when you need it.
Exactly. Yeah. No brainer.
It would take a long time for that $300 a year to add up to $1 million.
Right.
So it's good. It's great. So moving on to networking, you're one of the best networkers I know.
Thanks.
But like,
thank you.
So, like from a personal standpoint, well, like what do you think you've done to, like, what have you brought in from your life into your networking sphere that you feel like kind of makes you and do the things that you do?
So, yeah, I guess whenever I got started, it was a lot of cold calls, and it's a lot of just rejection, getting in front of people that you want to get in front of. And so what I did is I spent a lot of time researching the people that I wanted to work with. And it ended up being majority women. And I was very young whenever I got into the business. So I went after women that were kind of more my mom's age, people that I would look to as a role model in the industry. And so I did that and just wanted to soak up as much knowledge about how they became as successful as they are. And it's a lot of fluffing people's egos as well. I was very interested in what they had to say, but also like people love compliments. People love like talking about themselves. And so just putting the ball in their court and building friendships from there. So the majority of the people I work with, they're some of my closest friends as well. So I love working with the people that I do. And I would advise anybody and everybody to make friends with the people that you work with. So then it's not work. It's fun.
Yeah.
And you want to do things with them. You want to help them. In this industry, it's a lot of referrals. It's a lot of give back, give this. And I want to help the people that I work with and not just feel like it's work.
Yeah. And I feel like tighter spheres always conquer. You know? If you're working with the same groups of people consistently and with that familiarity, there comes a better process, there comes better communication. And if you're with each other from more often on a social basis, like there's also a sense of responsibility that kicks in, that you're like, hey, this is not only my business partner, it's my friend. And I care about doing things right and doing them well.
And
so you're a team.
Yeah.
So have you ever had any situations where you're at a networking event, you meet somebody, you think they're going to be great, and then like the working relationship hasn't worked out? Like, has that ever happened with you?
Happens a few times. Yeah.
How do you overcome that or communicate it when there's not a fit there, but you like somebody personally?
That's a good question. And I'm not the best to answer that because I'm
sorry for putting you on the spot. I mean, I feel like that's kind of maybe a little bit of a negative question, but I feel like it's something that, there's a lot of great people out there, but not everybody. People can be great friends, but they can not be great for each other in business. And I think that in our business, we do so much networking that it's almost easier to make friends and then turn the friends into business.
Mhm.
And then sometimes it's like, no, we're better friends than we are business partners. And it takes a while to figure that out.
Yeah.
And because not everybody works the same way, you know, um,
Right. Yep.
and because like you said, you use the word team. And I feel like the teamwork aspect in our business is what makes a great process for the customers. Because ultimately every we depend on you and our other insurance partners to do a great job and service our
Mhm.
customers really well,
Mhm.
because every referral is an extension of each other. The same way when a realtor refers somebody to us, or a home builder refers somebody to us, like we're an extension of their business and we have a responsibility to make it great.
Right.
And that's a hard thing to live up to sometimes,
Mhm.
depending on what somebody's expectations are. So before you start working with somebody, do you kind of say like, hey, do you get an understanding of their process first? Do you explain yours? Like, tell me how you transition from, hey, I'm at this networking event, because that's where I feel like you network. You go to a lot of networking events. You do a lot of face to face, a lot of cold calling. How do you transition that into business personally?
Right. Yeah. So, like you said, you go to these networking events, you meet the people, and then from there, I'll go to like a one-on-one with them, just so we can have a more personal conversation. And then from there, you can kind of see more if it's a fit or not. And then as we find out that it is a fit, then I like to see how, say, like a lender or a realtor works and how they like to refer their business. Everybody's different.
Hmm.
And that's where I kind of come in and be a chameleon and like fit into your process and make it as easy as possible for you and make you look good.
Yep.
So I like to feed off of whatever works best for them, because um, I'm very grateful that I do get the opportunity to work with you guys, because lenders and realtors feed me basically. So it makes more sense for me to adapt to you guys rather than you guys adapt to me.
You guys adapting to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always feel like when somebody tries to change someone else's process because they're like so set in their ways, it never really ends up working out. So
No.
you and sometimes you adapt your process together over time. Be like,
Hmm.
hey, this is where something went wrong. Can we change this? And then that's the whole teamwork part of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh,
And then you build together from
yeah,
there, build
yeah.
y'all's process. And everybody
And
does something different. So
mhm.
that's the beauty of it.
Everybody's got their little secret sauce, like you
Yeah.
said, and some people just want price, some people just want it fast, and some people care more about service and don't care about the other two. I
Right.
always say, like anything in business, most companies, you got three things: you get good, fast, and cheap, and you can pick two out of three, but it's really hard to hit three out of three with any business that's
Yep.
out
Exactly.
there.
Just like fast food.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's pretty. Yeah, exactly. It's like you're gonna get good, fast, cheap. Pick two out of three. So,
Right.
um, but I feel like you've shared a lot with us today. It's really been great to have you on. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you feel like is important to run through?
Um, let's see. Um, no, shop your insurance each year. That's one of the big things. See that every single time with renewals, people's renewals come through and they're like, my mortgage went up. It's my taxes, it's my insurance. And yes, it is. But it's the beauty of having a broker. We can shop it each year for you, make sure you have the same coverages and the best rate. And when your mortgage sells, make sure you update your insurance, because that is another huge hiccup we see each year at renewals, is
Yeah,
the insurance not being paid because it
yeah,
was sold and nobody knew.
yeah.
So those are my
Oh,
two bits of advice.
that's big. Those are both big
Yeah.
ones. So shop insurance annually, and then when your mortgage sells, make sure you change the servicer. So
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
huge. That's great. Well,
Yeah.
you've been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you soon. And
Yes.
glad we're
Thanks for
back to
having me.
normal. And uh,
Truly.
yeah, it's gonna. It's been a couple weeks, but we've already seen each other at a social networking event within like what it was, like Easter weekend or
Yeah,
something.
it was
So
great.
yeah,
That was so
yeah,
much fun.
yeah. We'll catch up again soon, and it
Sweet.
was great having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored that you asked. This was
Yeah,
great.
yeah. No, I appreciate it. Well, have a good one, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks. Sounds good. You too.